Some podcasters stay small because they try and do everything themselves. Today's guest knows firsthand that the real magic happens when you build a team that scales with you. Hello, hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Behind the Workflow. My name is Simona Costantini.
And I'm Taly, Melo.
And today we are joined by, I just absolutely love him. I love talking to him. We're joined by Mathew Passy. He's the founder of Suite Recording, where he offers in-studio mobile recording and studio building services for podcasters. He has over 15 years of experience helping creators launch, manage, and grow their shows. And Mathew has seen the industry evolve from its early days to today's booming market, which is surely a massive, massive, massive shift. He's also the founder of Conntap, which is a really cool product. It's an NFC tech tool designed to make podcast connections easier. And he's also the host of Podcasting Tech, which we have been a guest on and had so much fun that we had to bring him on to our show. And on his show, he shares tools, tactics, and insights for creators looking to level up their production and their workflow. Before we get into our conversation, this episode is brought to you by Northflow, the all-in-one content planning platform built for podcasters and teams who want to stay organized and in control. From mapping out episodes to tracking tasks and managing every single step of pre and post production, Northflow keeps it all in one place so that you can spend less time juggling tools and more time creating. Mathew, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. Excited to chat with you both today.
Me too. So for listeners who may not have met you yet, which sucks for them, how did you first get into podcasting? And then how did that lead into starting Suite Recording? Because it's really, really cool.
Sure. My podcast journey started all the way back in 2008. I was working for a large talk radio station and network here in New Jersey. While I was working there in the newsroom early mornings, the first iteration of the iPhone was announced and the first version of the podcast store was announced. Podcasts existed prior to that, but the process of getting to access them, especially on a mobile device at the time, was very cumbersome, very annoying. And frankly, for most people, it felt like you needed a degree in advanced network security and engineering to be able to do that kind of stuff. But anyway, so all of a sudden this news pops out. Podcasts are going to be easy to access, easy to, make available to folks. And basically, I turned to my boss at the time. I was like, these are interesting. I wonder, could we use one? And I was basically told if it doesn't cost him any money and it doesn't require any more of his time, go ahead. So I worked with the engineer for the station. We put together an RSS feed that I literally had to code every day that we launched new episodes. And we just repackaged some of our early morning news and put that out there as a podcast. I wasn't even listening to podcasts at the time. It would still be a little while before I consumed them heavily, but that was my first foray into launching a podcast. Shortly after that happened, I went to work for Wall Street Journal Radio Network. They were actually really ahead of the game in podcasting. They'd been doing it for a while already, and I was hired as a half radio, half podcasting person, and I spent the next 8 years hosting podcasts, producing them, creating new ones, managing strategy, really trying to take it to the next level. And it felt like we were finally on the cusp of doing something great with it. It was towards the end of 2014. Serial had just come out. There was excitement for podcasting at the time. At the end of 2014, instead of going to the next level, we all got laid off. The radio industry was suffering tremendously. Our product in particular was struggling mightily over some controversy that was out there in the world. And so they just shut us all down, including the podcast. 6 months later, they were like, we probably should have kept podcasting going, and they relaunched. But momentum was lost and whatnot. Anyway, after I got let go, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And folks that I used to interview regularly at the Wall Street Journal who had appeared on podcasts were like, these were helpful. We found people who wanted to connect with us because of this. Could you help us produce our own? I said, sure. So I went on to start a company that eventually became the Podcast Consultant. It was a full-service podcast agency for production, podcast launching, strategy, consulting, audits, video. We did it all. Ran that for 8 years until I sold it back in 2023. Took a little bit of time off. Was thinking maybe I'll get out of podcasting, see if I could try something new. And then I found myself just falling right back into old habits and getting right back into podcasting. Suite Recording was actually a studio that was launched while I ran the other business. And I had to sell my interest in it because of a non-compete that I had signed. And so the studio remained open. My partner took it over. He was running it. Now that my non-compete is up, I'm back with him at Suite Recording, and we're trying to take it to the next level, not just be that in-studio place for people to come and record, but also, like you said, offer mobile recording services. So we'll bring the podcast to you. Or for those folks who want to be able to record content all the time, we can design, install, configure podcast studios in homes and offices and other locations. We've got some other really exciting products that we're in the middle of developing. But yeah, I mean, the idea is really just to make it as easy as possible for people to have high quality content capture right there at their fingertips.
Wow, what a journey. So you've worked in production, tech, studio building, consulting, basically every corner of the industry.
Advertising.
Advertising, and also creating your own device, right? So how has having that range of experience shaped the way that you actually help your clients today?
I think the thing that I always tell my clients is the reason why they should work with me is that I've already made all the mistakes that they are probably going to make. And so I am really good at helping people avoid it. You know, what I never want to do is I never want to talk to a client and say, work with me. I guarantee we'll get you up to 1 million downloads and 100. No, well, there's too many factors that go into it. Anybody who is out there promising the stars and the moon are usually undelivering. What I am really focusing on is being able to help people who have a mission, have a real sense of value that they want to deliver with their content, and helping them to craft it and shape it and hone it so that it can reach its maximum potential. That maximum potential might only be 500 listeners. And to some folks, 500 listeners to a podcast is way more valuable than somebody getting 50,000 downloads of a different podcast. So for me, it's really just about knowing that every podcaster's journey is going to be unique. Every podcaster's journey is going to be a little bit different. They're going to be, one podcaster needs to market over here, or one needs to market over there. One needs to think about these tools for what they want to do. One needs to think about those tools. So really what I think I bring to the table is just that long-term experience. It's just anytime any new tech or toys or software or equipment comes out, I try and get my hands on it. I try and test it. I try and see how can I break it, which, by the way, I'm great at breaking stuff. And then knowing how to fix it, knowing how to avoid what it was that caused problems in the first place is what I think I can really do to help clients to reach their highest potential, right? Remove the friction, remove the hurdles, and give them the best chance to be successful.
I love
That's
that you like
fantastic.
breaking things, because
I'm so good at it.
that's what I usually do here at Northflow. One of the things that I do QA when everything is in production, and I am not loved for that. Let's just keep it that way.
It's a necessary evil to be that kind of a pain in the butt to the team, right?
Yes, I'm known as the rotten finger here.
That's a terrible nickname. We got to get you a better one.
Well, it's coming from developers, so it's understandable because I do make them go back and do a few things. It is part of the work.
And it's what makes the product better, which I think is really important. We were producing a client podcast that actually went live today as we're recording this. And part of what they were saying in the episode, the guy was saying, it was like more leadership based, but he essentially was saying, like, can you break whatever it is, whatever goal you have, whatever thing that you're doing, can you break it in 20 minutes or less? Because if you can break it, then you can rebuild it from a different perspective. So I really like that you have this idea of testing, trying again, and allowing your clients to kind of just follow from all of the things that you've already done. That's the key part. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, podcasting isn't overly complicated. It's all of the other things that we put in place that make it so complicated, you know? So if you're working with someone who already just knows what they're doing, then that's perfect. You've just saved yourself so much time and so much agony in trying to figure it out yourself. Your show, Podcasting Tech, it's all about the tools and all about the tactics that podcasters can use. What is one piece of tech, and we can go into workflows from here as well, but one piece of tech or a workflow tip from the show that you think that every podcaster should know?
Well, I think definitely organization. And not every tool that podcasters use are a specific podcasting tech product, but whether you are running a agency, operating a studio, just running your own podcast, or just trying to promote your podcast, like, I find the one tool that is most important is project management. And I'm not just saying that because we are obviously Northflow has a fantastic tool for specifically podcast project management, but really it's because if the organization can stay on target, right? If your workflow can be systematized, right? If everything that you do happens the same way and there's the same operations and this goes to this and this talks to this, like it'll save you the most amount of stress, the most amount of anxiety, and it will make it really easy for you to focus on what it is that matters most to your audience, which is good content and good value. Some of the things that we used to offer in the past as services to our clients was like remote recording, which when you think about it, really what we were doing was we had clients who were interviewing guests all around the country, and we were basically just starting a room in Riverside or starting a room in Zoom and making sure to hit record for them. And now to you and to me, that sounds really, really easy. But to a person who is not comfortable with technology, but who's really excited to talk about the topic or to chat with their guests, like they just want to have that conversation, right? They just want to give that value to their audience. And what they don't want to do is they don't want to be stressing about whether or not the right input is going, whether the camera is working, whether somebody hit record, right? Like it's not just about their comfort. They want their guest to come away feeling like it was a good experience. Because in many cases, that guest isn't just a guest, but it's a potential client or partner or somebody who they want to work with and somebody who they want to impress. Just having good tools that give you peace of mind, that let you know that what you need to move this along is going to work, can really save you a lot of mental energy that you can then use to put into the actual value that your show provides.
When I first started doing, so in addition to Behind the Workflow, I have two other podcasts as well. One is called Happiness Happens. The other one is called As It Relates to Podcasting. And on the As It Relates to Podcasting show, when I first launched it, it was a couple years ago now. And I really wanted it to be kind of focused in on like tech, camera, like all the good stuff and like making it look really good and so on. Matthew, it was so frustrating doing that show in the beginning because the tech was so confusing. Like even as someone who I record remote all the time, I was using my Sony ZV-10, I was doing all the things, but I couldn't figure out what was the loophole of why is my camera dying every 6 seconds? Why does the card get so full so fast? I couldn't record the stuff. And it actually created so much anxiety to actually sit down and record because I'm like, I'm going to have all these incredible guests on the show and my tech isn't going to work. You know what I mean? Especially as a producer, I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. I should know how to do this. It took a lot of trial.
Thing,
yeah. It took so much trial and error to figure it out. And like, happy to report, all is good now. Everything's fine. Like I figured it out. But you know, it's not always just that simple. So it's really, you have to talk more about the studio piece afterwards.
How do you keep your production schedule or client expectations and basically your own sanity in check? I'm curious to know what's your process right now.
I mean, for a while, I used to manage all my clients just through email. And it was I was working pretty well at that for about 2 years. And then I was like this close to forgetting to air a client episode. And it was at that point where it was like, oh, this is not going to work. Like we have got to fix this right away. To be perfectly blunt, when I started the original production business, The Podcast Consultant, I wasn't really planning on turning it into anything other than it was just like a side hustle. It was like, here's something I can do that'll help me make money while I'm out there finding real work or finding a full-time job. This didn't seem like a robust industry at the time that was going to sustain me full time. Obviously that changed. But, you know, it was that moment where I was like, nope, I never want to fail one of my clients that forced me to go on the hunt for project management software. And like the first time we did this, I have tried all of them, Trello and Airtable and Monday and ClickUp and like all those different things. So once we settled on the right system that worked for us, that we could customize, that had automations, right? They could do the things that we wanted to do. Like that was really key. Being super organized is important. Knowing, all right, I'm taping this, it's running, here are all the steps, right? Somebody has to physically check off that each one of these things are done. Because I'm a big muscle memory person, right? Once I've done something a few times, like I'm going to do it every time that same way. But when you're bringing other people on and when you're expecting other people to do it, like you need to make sure all those steps are outlined and detailed and set up so that there is no reason for things to fail. So really, it's that piece of it of just being very organized, knowing that when a certain show is done, it has this timeline. Knowing when another show is done, like, oh, we've got more breathing room, but we've got a few extra steps. So really, it's having a good game plan, having a system that helps you to repeat that game plan, and then just following it. Because it's very easy to set all that up, and then you do something, you're like, I've done this 100 times, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, now you've kind of messed with your muscle memory, you've trained yourself to take shortcuts, and you're probably setting yourself up for some failure down the line if you keep doing it that way.
Oh my gosh. I completely agree with you. And so if you think about different tools and different templates, different strategies of keeping things all organized, because we are behind the workflow, we want to dig into behind the workflow piece of it and give podcasters actual tips and tools that they can take and make their production, their management, like all of the things way easier. If you were to recommend an SOP or a template that you can't run your business without? Like, I know you just shared a lot about like the actual structure and like the tech behind it, but is there a process in specific that you want to make sure people would include or have within their own workflow?
I don't know if I can really speak to that, because I think the problem is, like we were saying earlier, every podcast is different, right? Every podcast is going to have different needs, different requirements, different deadlines, different timing, right? One client wants a show that does very detailed edits. They want to listen to it. They want to give back more edits. They want to listen to it again and go. Another client is like, it's done. Just let me know when we're doing the next one. And so it's hard to say what's that one specific thing that every single person is going to do. What I will say to agency owners out there and to folks who are thinking about offering these types of services is that there is a temptation when you are getting started to say yes to everything. Right? One client says, I need this. You say, no problem. We'll figure it out. One client wants this. You say, no problem. We'll figure it out. And then what happens is you find yourself doing lots of different things, lots of different ways, not having a good rhythm, not having good muscle memory. And the other thing is that you might be saying, well, I'm charging everyone the same. And you realize that workload is just a little bit different. It's okay to say, this is the service that I offer. This is the workflow that we do. And if this doesn't work for you, that's okay. There are other producers out there. I know that's easy to say from where I'm sitting and hard to hear if you are just getting started and every single client matters. But eventually that burnout is real, and frustration from clients is even more real. I remember offering lots of discounts when I got started, and then realizing like, no, this client is more work than what I'm getting paid for. And it's frustrating. And now every email I get from them, even if they are being the most polite person on the planet, feels like a slap in the face. And you really don't want that. You don't want to create a situation where you resent the people who are trying to pay you, who are trying to work with you. So it's hard to hear right now, but it's really good advice. Figure out that workflow that works best for you. And just say, this is what we offer. And if this doesn't work for you, no problem. There's other people out there who can probably accommodate. What I will say is make sure that you have great file label management. Nothing worse than uploading a raw audio file when you meant to upload a final. And make sure that you are using templates and services that allow you and other people to access the same thing. There's nothing worse than being like, oh, hey, can you edit this? And you send them a file. And it's like, well, I didn't get all the stems in there. Oh, just try and be as consistent as possible, and just make sure you leave yourself room for quality control. Once you've made a mistake, learn from it and install a system that prevents you from making that mistake again. That's the best thing that anybody can do, is just, if it didn't work, figure out what broke and fix it. Don't be like, we won't do that again. No, take a step to prevent that from ever happening again.
This is fantastic advice. And you're taking me back to when I first launched my agency, and you're going to die when I tell you this. 4 episodes, $800 a month, full social media management, every single upload to every single platform, newsletters, website, like literally everything. And of course, when you're doing that, you need more volume. We did really well. We had a lot of clients, but of course we had a lot of clients because everyone's like, wow, $800, like what a steal. This is fantastic.
Giving away the farm.
Like, oh my gosh. So then from there, this is especially like if you know you're a new producer kind of coming in and like structuring, but from there I broke out all the things that people would ask me all the time. We need this. And then I broke it out into packages, and having it in packages where people can see like what do they exactly need, and having different prices for those different things really helps with that resentment. Because you know, you're right, especially if you have, first of all, if you're undercharging, but then second of all, if you have clients messaging you on every single platform at all hours of the day, but everyone messaging in a different place, it's so frustrating. It's overwhelming because it's like you don't know where to go to look for what. You don't know, your team doesn't know how to communicate. And so having a platform that centralizes all of these things with templates, with SOPs, with all of that saves you so much trouble as you continue to go on. I'm guessing you would agree.
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%, yes.
Yeah, and one thing that we did on Northflow, because as we were building, we got that feedback a lot. Like, not every client does everything the same way. We basically gave an option where you can have multiple templates. So you can have like different templates based on specific clients or show. Or you can have, let's say, a client, sometimes they will do just like a guest. Sometimes they'll do it on their own. You can have different templates for each type of episodes as well. So we try to make it very flexible so you could make sure you have all of the steps, no matter which kind of client or show that you're doing. So since we're talking about clients, I want you to go down the memory lane, Mathew. Do you remember like your first client project? I know it's been a while, but what worked so well in those early days that you still do today? Or if nothing worked, what was the one thing that you wish you knew back then?
I mean, I wish I knew to value myself more back then. I definitely suffered from that feeling of I better undercharge to get the client and to keep them than price what I really thought my time was worth. A lot of my early clients were underpaying for a long time. Now, at the time, I felt like it was okay because I was also getting a ton of referral business from them. And so it felt like it was okay to say, hey, you know, thank you. You've been great to me. Like, your success has been my success. But it was a hard conversation when I finally been like, listen, I would love to keep you at these rates, but I can't afford to do so. And thankfully, they were all very understanding, very generous, and very appreciative of what we had done thus far. And so when it came time to say, hey, this is what it's got to be now, they're like, yeah. And even if you were like, well, I'm going to go shop around, they came back, yeah, no, you're still a better value than most of the people out there. But the one thing that I would say I really learned early on with some of those first clients that I would encourage everybody to think about is customer support. And maybe sometimes I did it to a fault, especially if you ask my wife. But the truth is, what we do as podcast editors, I'm going to specifically stick with that because that was kind of the main function I was doing at the time, was just literally cleaning up the audio, right? Ums and uhs and likes and rights and all that filler nonsense and tightening things up. What we actually did is not complicated, right? Almost anybody could be trained to do this. Most of my clients could be trained to do that. The fact was that their time was better spent doing what they do and making more money than what it cost them to have somebody else take care of it. And nobody is going to be perfect. I remember making a few big mistakes early on. And every time a big mistake happened, I remember having panic attacks and sweats thinking, oh no, this client's going to leave. Oh, and by the way, they're going to take with them everybody who they referred my way as well. And that'll be it. I was really worried about how quickly business could die out because of mistakes that were happening. But what I remember a few clients saying early on was, listen, everybody makes mistakes. However, I always made it a point to own those mistakes, right? If it was my fault or my team's fault, right away, I wasn't trying to BS them. I wasn't like, no, this is what happened. We screwed up. We did this. We meant to do that. So owning that mistake was very important. Fixing that mistake as quickly as possible, which, yeah, it did mean sometimes at 11 o'clock at night, I would get an email and open up my computer and be like, oh, let me take care of that right now. I don't know if I would be that crazy about it anymore, right? I think you have to have a little bit of separation, but at the time that was very appreciated by my clients that I was paying attention, listening, and making those fixes. And then, like I said earlier, when a mistake happens, immediately coming up with some sort of new SOP, something in the workflow, something that would prevent that from happening again. Because one time it's a mistake. A second time, Now people have to question how dedicated, how committed are you to actually providing good customer service. And yeah, was I the best editor in the world? Probably not. Probably still aren't. Was I the best priced? Again, I'm sure there were lots of people charging more than me, but plenty of people charging less than me. But the thing that I think helped us the most was that the clients knew that I wasn't just collecting a paycheck, that I cared. I wanted them to succeed for no other reason than I cared about them and what they were doing.
That's such an important piece because client experience is the differentiating factor. Like you said, anyone can do the work if you train yourself to do it. Now, of course, if you hire someone who has a background in marketing or maybe is an expert in PR or like, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever the specific thing is that you might be looking for, there's always differentiating factors that make, different packages more suitable for different people. But the client experience that you deliver to people is what people remember the most. That's why people will refer you business. It's why people will send you other people your way. And it also, because at the end of the day, like everyone is human and mistakes happen. Like you said, they happen one time and you're like, okay, better fix the process so that it doesn't happen again. And if it happens again and again, like I've heard stories of people who deliver files on the day that it goes live. Like my stress level would be through the roof if I did that. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even. We like to have everything scheduled well in advance, right? So to think that people would deliver something on a Wednesday morning when it goes live on the Wednesday morning, that just gives me so much like a cortisol boost that I don't need in my life. But at the same time, you know what I mean?
That was like the number one reason that I would get new clients was they were working with somebody else and their biggest frustration was just, I never had the material ahead of time. It went live and I just had to deal with what was live and I couldn't pull it back and they wanted time to review it. And yeah, so, we always said the release date is one thing. Our deadline is always at least 48 hours in advance or, depends on the client. Some clients are like, nope, I'm recording today. It's going live tomorrow. So, okay. I guess I can't give you 48 hours, but we'll make it work.
Exactly. But you know that in advance and like, that's totally okay. Like in my agency, we like to have everything done, wrapped up with a bow on the Friday before everything goes live at the latest. You know what I mean? Because that for me, I'm like, we can all go into the weekend. We can all relax. Like everyone you can enjoy your time. But imagine paying all this money for people to produce your show and then you get it last minute and you're not even happy with it. That would be a horrible experience. So your client experience is everything. It's why people continue to refer you business. It's why people want to work with you. And when you care about that and actually value that, people notice that. So talking about this care and the quality piece within it, and we were talking a little bit about balancing quality and consistency. If you're managing all these different shows, how do you make sure that every single show stays consistent in quality and in your brand voice without burning out your team? Would you go back to systems and processes for this one?
I think you have to go back to systems and processes for this one. The other thing that I really did with my team was we would kind of find shows that matched the personality. So if we had 10 freelancers working for us at a time, I would always say like, this particular show, and maybe this person had 3 or 4 shows in their network. Like I know these 3 freelancers can handle the show to the level that the talent wants. And I also know that they enjoy the show itself, right? To my amazement, some of these guys are like, no, I'm always excited to edit this show because I get to learn so much while I'm listening to it. Whereas we had another show where half of my team was like, I will not listen to that person's content. It's just, frankly, to them, they called it offensive. So one thing is always, making sure that you are keeping in mind the mental health of your team, right? Because it's not just editing, right? They are kind of being force-fed stuff that sometimes just boring, sometimes very exciting educational, sometimes like, oh, cool, celebrity on. And sometimes it is just so hard on the ears that it was actually causing people stress. And that was one thing we did, was really try and work to make sure that we were pairing people with the right shows. The other thing that I would definitely institute, which I didn't do before, but we've sort of done a better job of now, is that last quality control. So for a long time, we were just letting editors do their thing, publishing it, and, it was good to go. We trusted our team. They knew what the expectations were. We had a very stringent testing period where they had to work on projects and basically pass our quality control standards before they were on their own and able to take client work without any supervision whatsoever. The thing that I would do differently today, or that we are doing differently today, is like, no matter what, is still having one person, whether it's me, my partner, somebody else, somebody's going to listen to everybody's work before it goes out there. Because what you don't want to have happen is a teammate can make a mistake, right? Everybody makes mistakes. If that mistake gets up to the client, then everybody's going to kind of feel the hit of that. Everyone's going to feel the hurt of that. Everyone's going to be upset by it. And not that we've ever done it, but clients might come and be like, I never want that person working on my show again. Or why is that person on your team? Right? Like, and you kind of almost feel like, do I have to get rid of this person? We never did that. But just having one person who can just kind of rest ashore and listen to everything at the end. And then when there are problems, talk about it with the person. Hey, here's the problem. Why did you do it this way? What were you thinking here? Did you miss it? Are we giving you too much work? Are you like, it's really just trying to be as accommodating as possible. I never wanted people to work with me who felt like they were in a sweatshop, right? We gave them an opportunity. We're like, hey, here's some easy work. You get to edit a podcast episode a day, give 3 to 4 hours of work, and then do what you want. If you want more, great, we've got more. If you want less, you got less. So we always tried to make it feel like it was good quality work. It was easy. It paid well. And it wasn't stressing them out. And basically, if your team can be happy with the situation they're in, then yeah, they're going to do better work. They're going to give it their all. They're going to feel their focus. Whereas if you're paying people dirt prices, if you're throwing things at them, if you're constantly yelling at them, constantly stressing them out, not letting them feel like you care about them as much as you care about the client, then yeah, the quality is going to go down. Mistakes are going to happen more often, and everybody's going to be in a bad mood, and no one's going to succeed.
100%. This is like the backbone behind like belonging in a team, which is really important also, right? Feeling like you're doing work that matters, but also work that's important to you. That's actually a huge value that I have within my agency. Yes, maybe not every single podcast is every editor's dream show to be editing, but making sure that people are like not hating the work. Cause like we've worked with clients in the past that, you know, have been so picky to a point where that specific edit isn't something that's going to like make or break anything. And it's just kind of like when you're on round 10 of doing that, it's like, okay, we don't need to be doing this though. You know what I mean? And then if you look at the price that's quoted for the amount of output of work that you're doing, it's like, wait, hold on, there's no balance here. And it makes the team frustrated, right? And so as a leader of a team, it's so important to know that and to let people play into their strengths, but also making sure that your team is happy. Because if you want to have a team that is together and that is thriving, like you have to play into people's strengths. In any job, in anything you do, you're not going to love 100% of the work, especially if you think of the corporate setting and whatever. All the time, people do, maybe they like 90% of the job and 10% of it they don't love. But that 90% is really important that people are actually doing the stuff that they love to do. Mathew, if you were to give us 3 takeaways from today's episode, what would those top 3 things be that you want our listener to remember as we start to close?
I think number 1, of course, is value yourself. Everybody wants to undercut each other so they can get the client, but think about what you want to charge, what's going to make you happy to do the work, and then add to it so that you have the ability to offer discounts for work that you want to do where budget might be an issue. Because you just don't want to be resentful, right? You don't want work that is harder and makes you upset. Make sure you value yourself correctly. 2, systems, right? Figure out a system, have a system, practice the system, run the system, create muscle memory, because then it doesn't feel like every episode coming in is a challenge. It's just, put it in the workflow and it will get done. Without systems, there's chaos and problems and stress and anxiety, and it's just not fun. And to that end, I would also say, think about consistency. Car manufacturers make only 7 or 8 models of vehicles. They don't try and make every single car in the world. It's okay for you to say to your clients, these are the 3 types of packages that we offer, and that's it. And if what you want doesn't fit into these 3, I'm sorry, you might have to look somewhere else, or you might have to adjust your expectations. Trying to accommodate everybody is going to break, and you're going to find yourself not valuing yourself and what you're offering, and it's going to create more problems. Value yourself so that you can continue to do this work at a sustainable level and not feel upset about it. Create good systems so that, you are doing things consistently and not stressing out. And then just decide what it is that you want to do and focus on that. People who try to be everything to everybody wind up being nothing to no one.
So if you could go back like to day one when you started in the podcast industry, what's like either one workflow system or boundary with the clients that you wish you had put in place like right from the start?
I mean, as much as I think my clients appreciated that I was there 24/7 and available to them, being there 24/7 and available to one client meant I had to be that way to all clients. And as you get bigger and as you're on to 50, 60, 100 different shows, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for you as an individual, and it's even not sustainable for the team. And then what happens is people, what's the expression? Give an inch, they'll take a mile. And so, you think you're giving lots of inches, and the next thing you know, you're giving out miles. And it's going to cause more of that resentment, frustration. Also, it is so much better to create excitement for people than disappointment. And so if you start off giving them everything, and then you're like, no, I'm going to pull back and only be available from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Well, the first time they email you at 5:30, you're out there like, what the hell? That's not what I'm used to. Start strict. It's so much better to start strict, and then if you need to, you can be flexible with the people who have earned and deserve it versus the other way around. You want to be everybody's friend, and then when you can't be, they turn on you. Whereas if you're strict and whatnot, and then you are a little bit nicer, it's like, oh, yeah, he is a good dude, or that's a great girl to work with. That's what I would say is like, just start off strict and then allow yourself flexibility as opposed to being super flexible and then trying to tighten it up. That's a recipe for losing clients.
Fantastic advice. Mathew, where can our listener find you so they can connect with you and learn more?
Sure. I mean, if you look up MathewPassy on any of the social networks, probably me. Suite Recording, SUITE recording.com, or as you mentioned earlier, Conntap, CONNTAP.com. Not sure when this comes out. If you run into issues with that, we are changing over our platform as we speak. New developers really creating a fantastic product. If you run into an issue, that's on purpose. I promise we're better than what you're seeing.
Well, we need someone to break it, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Someone has to. You're right.
Someone's got not to go on it right now.
Well, we're recording this before going down to Podcast Movement. This is going to be out after Podcast Movement, but we will be using it at Podcast Movement because we got our hands on some of your products. So really excited about that. But Mathew, thank you so much for being with us today. This is so fun. I love your insight and I super appreciate you being here. I know Taly does too.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to see the both of you, and would love to stay connected and keep doing episodes like these on each other's shows.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. We will see you next time behind the workflow. Bye for now.